Did Dr. Anthony Fauci predict this pandemic? There's an old article that's making the rounds on social media right now, fueling some theories. Our Verified team's looking into it to bring us a little more context. Here's Evan Kosloff.
The Verified team is here to stop misinformation in its tracks and get you the vetted truth. On Twitter, you may have seen people sharing this article from January 2017. It quotes Dr. Anthony Fauci, saying that President Trump will, quote, no doubt, face a surprise infectious disease outbreak. And some people are using this article to fuel conspiracy theories. So we're verifying. Did Fauci really warn more than 3 years ago that Trump would face a surprise outbreak? Our researchers analyzed the article, which says that Dr. Fauci made these comments during a forum about pandemic preparedness at the Georgetown University.
There will be a surprise outbreak.
We then tracked down this recording of that event, where Fauci says that the Trump administration will likely face both ongoing diseases and new ones.
There's no doubt in anyone's mind that they will be faced with the challenges that their predecessors were faced with.
So yes, Fauci did predict that there would be a surprise disease that the Trump administration would have to face. But that does not mean that Fauci predicted this coronavirus. What he was doing was generally describing what presidents face based on his experience advising 5 of them at the time. And if you listen to his entire 37-minute speech, Fauci talks about diseases that emerged or intensified during his tenure. For example, HIV/AIDS, West Nile virus, SARS, H1N1, Zika, and Ebola. So there's no crystal ball here, just a senior health expert explaining how to plan for future pandemics by looking to the past. With your Verify, this is Evan Kosloff.
Is there something you want us to look into? Email us your questions to verify@khu.com. You can also reach out on Facebook or Twitter. We're going to